Welcome to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Monday, December 16th. We will talk a little bit more about the loss to the Jets. Obviously, recapped it last night. We'll take a look at some of the performances from some of the young players that have been encouraging in recent weeks. But right now, I want to take a look at potential Jaguars cap maneuvering for the 2025 season, right? For all intents and purposes, 2024 is over. Yes, you want to develop some young players over the final 3 weeks of the season, but this has been a failed year. The Jaguars need a new head coach. They need a new direction with the front office as well. They need to clean house, start over, build around some of the core pieces that they have in place, which there are some very good core pieces in place, and then see what they can do moving forward. Find an identity, find a culture, transparent vision, unified vision. They need these things, right? But whoever comes in, assuming there is some change, they're going to have to make some decisions about the team's roster, personnel, and the cap has a massive implication when it comes to making those decisions. So that's what we're going to dive in here to on this show. I really appreciate y'all tuning in, supporting the channel. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop and pick up some new Duval gear, like the hat I'm wearing right now. So again, really appreciate y'all. Diving into the Jaguars cap for 2025, it's a healthy cap situation overall. They have $46 million in estimated cap space right now, according to overthecap.com, which is my go-to resource for anything cap related. So looking at some potential moves that the Jaguars could make following the 2024 season to clear cap space, to create more of a availability to go maybe add some new talent. Maybe they want to pivot. A new regime potentially would want to pivot quite a bit off of some current talent that the Jaguars have on their roster. And number one, we've talked about it here quite a bit. It is Christian Kirk. The Jaguars, he has a big cap number, right? But the Jaguars can save $10.7 million in cap, 2025 cap, by cutting Christian Kirk pre-June 1. Now, teams have another mechanization they can use to cut players, sever ties with them, let them go, pursue other contracts and save more money. And that's post-June 1 cuts, but that money does not hit until after June 1st. And you're also only allowed 2 of those per offseason. So if the Jaguars wanted to, they could cut Christian Kirk post-June 1, let him walk, let him go find a new job, and they would save $16.5 million in cap space, but it would not be until post-June 1, right? In almost all the scenarios and situations we're going to talk about today, if the Jaguars decided to cut that player post-June 1, they would save more money against the cap, but that money against the cap would not be available until after June 1st, which means the first big wave of free agency, you would not be able to utilize those resources that you gained. But again, the Jaguars can save $10.7 million against the cap, essentially getting themselves to $57 million in cap space if they decide to move on from Christian Kirk. That's a big decision. He has a great relationship with Trevor Lawrence. He is one of the top 10 slot receivers in the game, but he is slot exclusive for the most part. He's not doing a whole lot else besides lining up in the slot for you. He has dealt with injury situations in recent years. So obviously that's a big implication there. Foye Oluokun, I don't think the Jaguars have any incentive to move on from. If the new regime really wanted to move on from him, I think they would do post-June 1, because pre-June 1, they're not saving anything against the cap. Post-June 1, they would save $2.5 million. I don't think there's any reason to move on from Foye Oluokun for the Jacksonville Jaguars. His cap number is only $11.5 million. He is a good starting linebacker in this league. You're obviously not moving on from Trevor Lawrence. Brandon Sheriff, his contract is expiring following the 2024 season. So he won't be under contract, but he will be hitting the team pretty hard with some void money, which the Jaguars aren't going to be able to do anything about. And then obviously Josh Hines-Allen, you're not doing anything with his contract. Now, next player, Trayvon Walker at $11.891 million against the cap in 2024. the Jaguars, if they want to extend Trayvon Walker following the 2024 campaign, which they can do, and then that extension would not start until likely after the 2026 campaign because they would pick up the 5th-year option, right? And so then the new extension the new money wouldn't be until after 2026. They could save some money against his cap number. Certainly. They could probably cut it in half. And if they went and did the Christian Kirk cut and got to $57 million and then saved like $5 million on Trayvon Walker's contract for 2025, then you're talking about having $62 million in cap space. Evan Engram is an interesting one. $13.5 million in dead money. That means that's going to hit the cap no matter what. But they do have $6.25 million in cap savings as a pre-June 1 cut. Post-June 1, they would save $15.75 million. That is the contract that I think makes the most sense as a post-June 1 cut. But again, that money does not get to your cap until post-June 1. So you're losing some advantage. If the Jaguars were to release Kirk and Evan Engram, both pre-June 1, it would obviously have major ramifications on the offense. They have been the Jaguars' 2 leading target getters over the last several years, when healthy. But you would also save, again, $6.25 million pre-June 1 by releasing Evan Engram. So you're talking about getting to 57 with Christian Kirk, 62 with Trayvon Walker, and then over $68 million in, and again, the Trayvon Walker is not a cut, that's extension. Then the over $68 million, according to overcap.com, in cap savings with those guys. Devon Hamilton, you certainly would not cut pre-June 1 because that would not help you out at all. Post-June 1, that's another one that could make sense if the Jaguars want to move in a different direction. They would save $7.3 million. Devon Hamilton, I think it's still difficult to judge what he is at this point just because of the whole health scare he had last year. I think that he's had some ups and downs this year. I think he could have a really good year of football in 2025, but would a new regime have any interest in finding out that answer? They don't have like a vested interest in him. So if they were going to move on from Devon Hamilton, it would be a post-June 1. And that would clear up some space potentially for some later movement, after the draft. Draft is in late April, so post-June 1, you'd have about a month and change. And then if you wanted to make some moves after that, Devon Hamilton's $7.3 million in cap savings after post-June 1 could help you in that regard. 2 guys you signed last year, Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead, they make no sense to move on from. And I think if you want to find solace in that, Gabe Davis has dealt with injury all year, in my opinion. He should not be a starting receiver. He is being paid to be a starting receiver. He should not be a starting receiver. But as a utility player, if you're able to bring in talent at the receiver position opposite Brian Thomas Jr. outside, as a utility player, Gabe Davis does have some value. Will his value match his price tag? Absolutely not. But again, there's no cap mechanizations other than trading him that's going to save you anything. Eric Armstead, on the other hand, cap-wise, same thing. But I think that there is a path forward where if you're playing him at 3-tech in 2025 and you have Josh Hines-Allen, you have Trayvon Walker, you have Eric Armstead playing on the interior, that could make a lot more sense for you, okay? Travis Etienne, it doesn't make any sense to move on from pre or post June 1 unless you're going to trade him, which I think the Jaguars should keep him around for next year. In all likelihood, Walker Little's going to be your starting left tackle. Ezra Cleveland is going to be your starting left guard. You could extend Ezra Cleveland, right? He is under contract through 2026, but you could extend Ezra Cleveland if you wanted to, save some money against the cap, because he's only 26 years old. He's still a young buck. Like he's got plenty of tread on the tires. That could be cap saving mechanization, but I just don't really see them doing that in all likelihood. Devin Lloyd, he's been up and down. As soon as I start feeling good about where he's at, he has a game like he did yesterday, and obviously he was put in some terrible situations, but I think he also had some situations that he just did not manage very well in coverage. So yeah, there's some interesting things there. Looking at Ronald Darby, Ronald and the Jaguars don't save anything by moving on from Devin Lloyd either. Ronald Darby, the Jaguars pre-June 1 could save $2.25 million if they want to move on. So that's somebody who could be a cut candidate, just like if the new regime or whoever's in charge just decides we want to go younger, we want to go in a different direction there. That would get them to over $70 million with some of the other moves we've talked about them potentially making. Andrew Wingard, $1 million in dead money, $2.7 million in cap savings pre-June 1. I think Dewey's worth keeping around, but that could be a situation that somebody looks at, certainly. Again, I wouldn't move on. Devin Duvernay is an interesting one, $1.2 million in dead money, $2.85 million in cap savings. Right? That could definitely be one that you look at. I think that Daniel Thomas, 1.8 in cap savings if they decide to move on. Luke Fortner, 1.4 in cap savings if they decide to move on. Chad Muma, 1.4. All these are very small fries, right? Like not big bites at the apple. But those are basically the big cap shedding moves the Jaguars could make, so they could realistically get to over $70 million in cap space before free agency starts if they desire. And then they would need to address wide receiver, at least in the slot. I would say also outside for sure, in my opinion. They would need to address, potentially tight end, although Brenton Strange is playing really well, but Luke Farrell's also an unrestricted free agent, so you would have Evan Engram and Luke Farrell departing, so you would need to do something to supplement that position, obviously. That's kind of what you're looking at. They don't have a ton of big cap saving moves, but they have some, and they already have $46 million in estimated cap space, according to overthecap.com. We don't have the official cap number for next year. It will rise compared to what it's at right now. There's no question about that. So that's kind of a look at where the Jaguars are at from a cap perspective heading into the 2025 offseason. It is all offseason all the time at this point here. Now, we talk a little bit about what's going on, but everybody is focused on the future, so that's what we're going to focus on. And this is kind of a look at the future of the salary cap into 2025 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about these potential cap moves in the comment section below, and y'all have a good one.